actually.
Okay. Well, it's always a pleasure being the last speaker of the day, but thank you guys for hanging on today. I am also a University of Tennessee grad. Dr. Me can attest, maybe not the greatest student in the world, but I had a great time here. And when I was here, it really was a statistics department, and what they've done so far, just in the last few years, to turn this into really a top tier business analytics program has been really incredible to see the transformation. A lot of people in the industry are looking at it. I've been doing my part to kind of show people what's going on here. It's pretty unique, you know. There's a couple others in the country that I would say are on this level, but it's been pretty impressive. So hats off to everyone here for that. I want to start with just a quick video, a couple minutes. It'll hopefully get you jazzed up about what we're doing. This is just a thing we put together for Link Analytics to talk about big data and where we think it's going. So I'll start with that and then we'll go from there. So that's our 3-minute Super Bowl ad. We're just trying to find the funding. So let me... Where? Why don't I, this is different than my computer. Oh, here we go. It's down here too. There we go. All right. So very quickly, I know we're running out of time. Big data analytics, the revolution has just begun. I'm going to go through this and really talk about a few key points from that video. If anyone's at the SAS conference in Las Vegas earlier this week, I know Bill was there. This is a similar presentation, what we showed out there. Our CEO gave the keynote there. Will was on stage at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. I'm here at the University of Tennessee. But it's neither here nor there. Just a little bit about Link Analytics. Really, our focus has been in mobile telecommunications. Myself and one other person started the company 2.5 years ago now. Focus on mobile data, call detail records. Basically, every single time you make a phone call or send a text, a file is created. Analyzing that, you can imagine all the information that's in there is really interesting stuff. Information about online clicks, when people are using their smartphones and their tablets, where are they, what are they looking at, and how can we use that to kind of change the way we advertise to people. That's really our core strength, and then we're really, our focus is still around connections. We do some work in the government around the same concept of trying to find people and what they're doing for different reasons. Homeland Security was mentioned. We do stuff in telematics. There's lots of stuff, whether it be armored cars, trucks, whatever it is, they're driving around sending all kinds of data back about where those people are, what's happening, what traffic is moving around. And so there's information that can help those companies, but there's exhaust that comes from that data that can help other companies. And so what we're seeing is that, and I'll talk about it in a second, that we have the accidental data company, the company that has been collecting data for potentially a relatively boring purpose, that is now sitting back and saying, oh my gosh, I have some really valuable data. And so they're trying to monetize it. And so what we like to do is try to help companies monetize sort of crazy exhaust data from some of their current business practices. Our staff, and I show this just because we think it's a pretty good model for how to build an analytics organization. You've got data scientists and programmers over on the top left here. Those are the people that are running things in Hadoop, Netezza, Greenplum, Teradata. We use it pretty heavily in some of our telecom clients. Then we have the applied statisticians, the people who are really kind of doing the analysis in the very beginning to try to figure out what we're up against, trying to figure out what the problem is and bring it together. C, C++, Python. These are the more mathematician to ops research type people. And then, of course, it's a joke at the top right, but those people use PowerPoint. They use a lot more. But the concept is we are data agents, right? It's really kind of frustrating for people that we're out here creating all this amazing data, and there's all these companies making billions of dollars off of our data. And so I'll walk you through. This is our co-founder, CEO, Will, Georgia Tech. But walk you through the first couple hours of his day. Wakes up. His phone is on, probably streaming Pandora. There's information now sent out about what kind of music he likes. He's just waking up. He's already sent some data, a lot of data. Breaks out the phone, starts texting, brushing his teeth with the iPad, reading CNN. I mean, we really do this, right? It's kind of scary, but you wake up and the first thing you do is pick up your smartphone and start sending and creating data. It continues, gets on the scale. It's a connected scale. It's going to his insurance company. He's maybe a little unhappy with where he is right now, but the data is created. We saw the smart appliances, the dishwashers, the discounts you get by running it in the middle of the night. The company now knows what time Will use the dishwasher, when he opened it. More data is created, and the kids are just now leaving for school. How can you actually be a father and get your kids out the door if you've been doing all that and been creating all that data? You get to work, you scan your card, you go to the gym, you're using your phone. Maybe you have an app that tells you that you're not doing as well as you thought you would be. All that stuff is stored online. You go to Starbucks, get your coffee. You're using your phone, and, you have a hacker potentially here in the back that's collecting your data, right? So you're now giving it away. You get in your car is connected, you're driving, you're sending data about where you are, you're downloading data about traffic, you run a red light because you're texting, and it just goes on, right? And by 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, you've communicated with 3 communications firms, 5 software and app providers, 5 websites, a municipality, a security company, a coffee shop, a utility company, and 1 hacker. And then who knows, right? Once those companies get it and they're monetizing it, it goes somewhere else. And this is the first 2 hours of the day. It's a little scary. And the amount of data it created a lot, right? So you're tired. I can't believe it's 9:30, 10:30 in the morning, and I've already spent so much time with so many companies. The hashtags work in your sleep. And so we start thinking about the data agent concept. Is it a big data problem? No, it's a big data analytics problem. And that was why I was actually one of the people who said it's not big, it's not data, it's actually the analytics of it. All this data and all this that's being created changes the expectation of what consumers believe. You're not going to take a call. Hello, this is Sean from Facebook. I need to know where you are. I need pictures. Right? I mean, at some point you're going to say, "What are you talking about?" Right? But you do it because you're going to get something back, right? So you're not going to, and that's really what we've been focusing on. I was thinking about, okay, if we can collect data and analyze and do really interesting stuff with it, and it makes the consumer's experience better, then they're going to be a little bit less stringent with privacy, right? As opposed to posting everything that you're doing, where you are, I mean, everything that you do in a given day. So what is big data? Is it, sorry, let me go back here. So we say big data is a rallying cry. It's nothing more than that. As we've heard today, data has been collected for years. People are freaking out because there's a lot of it now. But if we stay on top of this and we start analyzing and start preparing ourselves for what's coming, then we're going to be okay, right? And storing this stuff is not really a big deal anymore. The stuff that's happening at Teradata, amazing stuff, where it's not just piling stuff into a database anymore, it's now putting it in there so you can actually do something once it's in there, right? One of our clients, Chris Jans, the VP of Market Development at Sienna, says, storage is there, the volume is cheap, well, what are you going to do with it? Where are you going to go with it next? And so there's really a difference here, big data versus big data analytics. A director of analytics at State Farm, when you ask about big data, well, it kind of means different things to different people. Is it 500 records or is it 6 billion events a day? It just depends on what you're trying to do. Now, when you say big data analytics, it says, that's something a little different. Data sources get bigger, and maybe the things that we've been doing for years may not work so well. We're sort of learning as we go here. Michael Berry, University of Tennessee's very own, says, never having enough RAM, never having the complete set of data is the big data problem. Being able to find needles in a haystack in orders of magnitude, it makes the problem harder and not easier. And then lastly, Jim Head, one of our friends in Atlanta, he's an EVP of analytics at BVDO. The big data is a level of complexity that we're just unaccustomed to seeing. And big data analytics, traditional inferences are no longer estimated, they're observed. And I think that's an important point we'll talk about in a second. So where are we with big data analytics? What's the industry doing? We're in the very, very beginning of this. The gap is a talent gap. There's not enough out there. For Link Analytics, we started the company 2 years ago. Finding the right people and keeping them is a challenge. Now, we haven't lost anyone, but we got to pay them a lot of money, and that's hard for a startup. But when you get someone good in analytics, it's extremely valuable. Mikhail Vigel, customer of ours at T-Mobile USA, says businesses are still acting too much on gut and instinct, and mid-level management doesn't understand analytics as well, so we need so they lose support, right? So we want to think about pushing the concept of big data analytics and the importance of it up to the levels of the organization that can make decisions and make sure things are happening. And then lastly, firms seem to be bogged down with investment in IT versus spending time actually looking at the data, right? It's much better to say, all right, you know what, we think these two data sources are dramatically, are extremely predictive. They can answer some business questions we simply haven't answered before, as opposed to saying, let's get all the data, right? Let's just put it all in and let's start with something that we know if we collect it and we collect it the right way and we start to analyze it the right way, it's going to be beneficial. And so there's sort of this mindset shift versus this is not just an IT thing. So like I said, we're in the first inning. We're in the very beginning. And the first concept here is analytics is disruptive. In 1987, George Box, professor of statistics at Wisconsin, said, all models are wrong. but some are actually still useful even if they're wrong, right? We were making probabilistic estimates, we were making guesses, we still are. But to play on the Google theme today, Peter Norvig from Google in 2011 said all models are wrong, and increasingly you can succeed without them, right? So the concept here is we're getting to a point where it's not statistical models as much as it is observing behavior and doing mathematics on that behavior inside the database to try to answer questions. And to play on this concept, years ago, the internet revolutionized the interconnectedness of people, right? People started emailing each other, and it changed the way that people communicated. We see big data analytics as revolutionizing the interconnectedness of data. So there are so many data sources that there's not one data source that's going to answer all the questions that we potentially have the ability to answer. Think about one of the things that are one of our key products at Link Analytics is a competitive intelligence solution. And what it does is basically analyzes every single mobile interaction in a day. So we're collecting in our data center somewhere around 15 billion records a day. So what we do with that, we paint a perfect picture across the United States of who has what mobile services, who's growing and who's shrinking with incredible accuracy. You know how they do that in the rest of the world right now? Hello, this is Sean Groer calling. What kind of phone service do you have? It's being done with market research. It's being done by people picking up the phone and calling and saying, hi, I'm calling, it's a research study, I need 5,000 people, right, to tell me what the market share is in Vienna or whatever it may be, right? So in the United States, the shift has happened in a place of competitive intelligence. We've replaced some market research vendors with a big data solution that answers questions that previously really weren't even thought of. Do I know the market share to 3 decimal places in New York City or in one of the boroughs of New York City? So Big Brother is watching you. Everyone is watching. It changes the solutions that are created. This is a perfect example. When you guys are making calls, you have no idea that what you're doing is creating a perfect market share report for the mobile telephone carrier so they understand if they're winning and losing against their competitors. One example.
So where do you get that data?
So the telecoms themselves collect it. And I mean, we will do analysis for two of the top 4 carriers of our clients, but it's collected internally, and it's only for themselves. They can't share it, but they would love to know, if there's people calling, if we're looking at Verizon and we see that people are calling AT&T or T-Mobile, you can start to see massive amounts of people. I mean, we're analyzing roughly 280 million out of the 330 million mobile numbers we see every single day. So that's a lot better than a simple market research. Second is the rise of the CAO organization. I happen to be a CAO, thank you very much. But the concept here is that we need executive sponsorship at the highest levels in order to drive analytics down. There's a lot of really, really smart people in all the companies that you guys work for, and chances are they're thinking about analytical ideas that they love to do. But unfortunately, there's no executive sponsorship, and there's no one up there that understands this the way that they do. And so Mikhail again says we need to create a new department with an analytics head to serve as an internal consulting group to the rest of the business, assign to clients, sit with them to ensure analytical integration. So this concept of having the chief analytics advocate. And then something a little simpler, firms need a big data analytics charter. And so we see big data analytics really as a revolution on the scale of when IT was launched, right? When people started using personal computers many years ago, it changed everything in the way businesses operate. It changed the way that firms were structured. It changed the way they made decisions, allocated budgets. And it built the IT group. And we believe that the analytics group is going to be just as big as the IT group and is going to be central to everything that a business does if they're going to be a successful business. The CIOs, CTOs, center of a company, a huge cost center, and there's no reason why analytics can't be that way either. So the CAO organization, as we see it, articulate the vision to the CEO and below, to find and foster talent, all the things we've talked about today, right? These are all things that you, as an analytics sponsor, as someone who it's their responsibility to drive analytics into the organization, these are the things they have to do. The last one, driving partnership with academia. We've had such a great experience with having interns in our office I know I'm going to get attacked at the end of this by potential interns, and please do, because we love working with academia. We think that if we can make a $10,000 investment in someone for a few months, and it turns out that 1 in 5 of those gives us something really valuable, and the other people learned a lot, and potentially could come back to us and do more, it's a no-brainer for us. And lastly, I guess particularly relevant here at the University of Tennessee, a talent shift in our university. So here's the bad news. And these are, by the way, quotes from professors, so don't blame me. But Jennifer Priestley does a lot of work with us in Atlanta. Associate professor at Kennesaw State says we are now in a position to have to train our students in skills that we often don't have. Right, so think about that. You have people who have been teaching statistics for many, many years, right? And that's a fantastic skill. However, the concept of bringing an analytics program together the way that you guys have is actually the right way to do it, right? Because you need to learn the statistics, but the soft skills, the other stuff that's out there, is just as important. Jim Head at BBDO says the smartest person in the room is the one that can communicate most clearly. And Michael Rappa at NC State, universities are not well configured to deliver soft skills. You guys are here at the University of Tennessee are in a great position there and definitely ahead of the charge. Here's the good news. For each undergrad in computer science and JD, give me every one of them you have. Now that comes from someone here at the University of Tennessee, Michael Berry. Demand for our graduates is over the top. Basically haven't seen any sort of recession whatsoever, as a function of the economy. Within a few years, our MBAs with quant experience are getting visibility in the CXO's office. And so we've reached a rare consensus in academia. Oftentimes, different parts of academia fight about different things, but this is sort of, it's seeing it come together here at the University of Tennessee, right? Very, very complex computational skills, mathematics, computer science, statistics, softer skills, MBA type classes, and bringing all that stuff together. Teamwork and leadership. We're at an unemployment rate in analytics of approximately 0. The second you graduate and you appear to be reasonably skilled in analytics, you're probably going to get a job. Real world internships are happening. There's amazing stuff, amazing interns, and just an incredible vibe when people walk through the door as an intern and see all the stuff that we're doing. And we've thought, more specific coursework in specific verticals, data mining for a specific industry, because as we talked about earlier, the specialization that's happening, one of the questions was, is R or SAS or one of those really leading the charge and it can be the right tool? I think the answer is no. I think the answer is that everything that we're doing is so specialized now that almost everything is going to require specialized software, right? So there will be something to do data mining specifically in bioengineering. Of course, those things are there now, but this concept that there's one tool that can just do everything is going away. And SAS and R are, you're starting to see very, very specialized things inside these software packages. But the way we do things, we'll do analysis in SAS. We'll try to scale the problem in SAS or R, whatever it may be. But the next step is everything is coded in C++ or Python or C# or whatever it may be, so that we have something that's scalable and can do the specific analysis that we ask of it and nothing more. And that's really, if you think about all the data that we have to pull together and put into one place, we feel like that's the best approach. And so, lastly, really a new ecosystem of companies emerge, right? So you're used to seeing these, right? You say, gosh, yep, those are all the analytics companies. Well, think about this. On the next slide, this is just a slice of companies that have built themselves around analytics and nothing else. And this is the very, very beginning, right? So, and all these companies, if you talk to them, they do something very, very specialized and very unique, and it's getting bigger and bigger. This is just one small sample of those. So at the ecosystem, we have the accidental data company, which I talked about, companies that they've been collecting data for years for other purposes, and now they're sitting on it and saying, I have something incredibly valuable here. What do I do with it? How do I, one, use it to make my experience for my customers better, and two, can I monetize it? Can I sell it somewhere else? Is someone asking a question that my data can answer? IT spawned millions of companies, and analytics will do the same. The concept of statistical engineering was a great term, but the concept of productization of big data analytics we don't believe that big data analytics projects will exist anymore. This stuff is going to come together, and to use all the data the way that we need to, it's going to require solutions. It's going to require engineering. It's going to require specific things built around it. And lastly, data becomes a vertical. So this concept that monetization of data, that there's data available everywhere, and people are now thinking about ways to sell it, ways to become data collectors, all that stuff is happening. And so I mean, it's really just, I tried to make this fast. I know it's late in the day. Lots of really amazing stuff going on, and definitely happy to take any questions you guys have. Like I said, it's late in the day. See? Am I the only one who's got no questions? Can you ask me a question?
You are not the only one. I'm about to do a double negative, but you are not the only one who got no questions.
Okay, good.
I'm in the South. I'm allowed to do that, right?
Sean, I got one.
Oh,
Okay.
we have a question. Yay.
Okay, thank you.
You just got an internship with.
Towards the end of your speech, you mentioned how learning R and SAS might not be, I don't know if you didn't say it wasn't applicable, but you said each individual area has a special system. Someone studying in the master's program, would you recommend them spending time learning C# or C++?
Yeah, I mean, really, I was telling RJ earlier, if I'm looking at two resumes, the exact same person, and one person has SQL and C++ on their resume and the other one doesn't, it's an absolute no-brainer for me. Because you have to think about ways to be self-sufficient, right? You're looking at this massive database, and if you have the ability to even use SQL to extract something, to do some analysis on your own, that's a very big deal for us. So this concept that, so not only is it analysis, but it's data management, right? It's the ability to be somewhat self-sufficient in the database to be able to pull things out. And then C++, because I see specialization of these tools as opposed to writing SAS code, I see specialization of tools to write a specific tool to answer a very specific question. And a lot of that stuff is in C++, Java, that type of stuff.
Probably had 30 different physicians tell me independently that one of their chief complaints about analysts, statisticians in particular, in their careers, is that they lack exactly what you were saying, the soft skills, by and large, and specifically for them, it was the complaint that I hear over and over and over again is that the folks that they've worked with in the past, a lot of times, it seemed like that they weren't meeting them halfway. That's the way they interpreted it. That the statistician was just sort of giving them data and not actually trying to understand the biology or work with the jargon, and the physician couldn't understand them. So in your experience, with the interns that you have coming in, are you seeing a shift? Because I agree that I think it's wonderful, this business analytics shift, teaching some of these skills. Are you seeing a transition in the interns that you have for them having more of these soft skills?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty selective with interns, right? And we really look for that. And we have a few case study type things that we'll give to a prospective intern. And really what we're looking for is not really the quality of the analysis as much as it is trying to understand the data and trying to communicate that stuff to us. So, I mean, I will say that we are, it's very rare that we'll hire just a pure hardcore statistician. We have to have people that are going to explain that stuff and understand the business side of things. They're more expensive. They're recruited. They're always getting calls from recruiters if the word gets out that this is what we would call a client-facing statistician, right? But if there's a reputation of this person being that, then we have to give them interesting stuff, pay them well, and let them have a fantastic job for them to stay around, because the market out there is just incredible for it.
Thanks.
Could you expound more on the productization of big data analytics?
Sure. Yeah, I think that what I'm referring to there is really this concept that no longer are we going to be able to pull out a sample of 10,000 records and do a predictive model on it and then infer that on top of all the records, right? Because things that we do, for example, we'll do social network analysis to understand how people are communicating with each other and who's important in these social networks. And if I did a sample of that, I could be sampling out the most important person in the social network and everything falls apart. So the concept here is that we're not going to be able to do very small projects anymore. So in order to be able to scale our projects and do robust analysis on all the data, we can't just kind of hack around in some sort of software and try to pull out do some sort of project-based analysis. We believe that productization, it needs to be scalable solutions written in things like C++ that are pulling data out in predefined formats that we've worked to define and then and do that analysis scalable so we can do it 5, 10, 15, 20 times because the effort to try to get this stuff out and try to do an analysis on a massive database is huge. So the more you can productize and template, the more effective you're going to be. And that speaks to the statistical engineering concept, right? We were hearing that there's no way that you could have rebuilt 54 models in 3 months if you didn't really, and that's really the productization, right? And you mentioned branding, but it's this concept that you know exactly what you're going to get. There's a very structured framework for it so that you can do these things very, very quickly.
Question over here, Sean.
That's all the questions. No, I'm just kidding.
You asked for it.
Yeah, one question was brought up earlier, and I guess I didn't hear the answer, but there's some data that's public domain, all the courthouse records and the utility records and that kind of stuff. But there's others when you're working with competitors and you're looking for market share and other things. How do you get that information if one competitor is not willing to release it or another?
Sure. And then they don't. If I'm doing analysis for, say, Verizon Wireless, they've got 90 million customers making calls and sending texts. Well, by virtue of them having 90 million customers, there's 280 million, another 190 million customers they're interacting with. Second they interact with them, we essentially see that they're an active customer. We can build a database of those people and understand when that customer no longer exists. So it's basically the concept of using your own data to then look out and see, using your subscribers as data agents to go collect the data that you need to make inferences to solve your business problem.
What if you're not? If the service is not interacting with a competitor?
Well, that's where the analytics comes in. I guess the concept we push is if you have 280 million records and there's 330, that's probably a lot better than making calls, market research calls to a few thousand to answer the same question. So the analytics, things that we do are things that, as an example, we'll use R to do capture, recapture analysis that will say, like when you're estimating animals in the wild, right? You'll trap a lion and then you'll let it go, and then if you trap it again, you analyze those rates to see how big populations are. The concept of a mobile phone call is very, very similar, right? So we would do capture, recapture analysis to try to understand what is that unobserved population.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.